Alright, today we're going to be doing an install of the GROM LEX6VL2 on a 2013 Lexus GX 460. The first thing we're going to need to do is get the radio out and display as well. So the first place we're going to start is on this side trim right here. All you need to do, you really don't even need a pry tool, but you can. You just have to pry these clips out here. This piece goes all the way up to the front. As you start to get it loose, it'll pull out at an angle. As you can see, all the clips here are angled to come back out at an angle. Next thing we're going to do is take this off. You don't necessarily need to do this, but we're going to need it later to get to the multimedia module. And then there's also a bottom part down here that I will show you that comes off with it. There we go. And as you can see, this is the full long piece here, and it's actually attached to this bottom piece that goes along here. Put that to the side as well. And then as you can see, this is going to be the same on the other side, but we've got 3 exposed 10mm bolts. So we'll go ahead and take those out while we're over here. Now these the top back ones can be a little tricky because they're so far back. It's good to use a magnet or just make sure you don't drop the bolt. There we go. And then we'll swap to the other side. Alright, so we're going to do the same thing over here now. So you just pry on this trim. There we go. And then once you've got that out, you need to pull the start-stop button. You can just turn it on once to get the steering wheel to come out. We'll go ahead and pull this button out. There we go. And once you've got that out, you'll see 3 bolts that are exposed right in that area. Alright, so the next step is going to be taking this center console part out here. We're going to need to take off the shifter, so we'll go ahead and do that first. Okay, now that we have that loose, the next thing that you're going to want to do is take this piece off right here. And I'm just using a right angle pick for that. You can pretty much use anything. It's set up to work with the car key as well. Sometimes the car key isn't the best. Once you have that out, you'll see there's a little trigger here. Once you hold that down, it'll allow you to shift however you need to. And we'll go ahead and pull this up. And it does separate from the actual cup holders. There we go. And then you'll pull it back. There we go. And now that we've got that pulled back enough, it will lift right up. You can start unplugging whatever you need to down here. Some of the plugs might be a little tight, so it's always good to have something like the right angle pick that'll help you get the clips loose. There you go. Now that we've got that loose, we can pull on this. I actually need to pull this out right here. It's directly below the radio. And there's actually 2 more bolts. Alright, and as you can see, we've taken 2 bolts out. There's one over here, and they're behind that small silver trim that looks just like this, directly below the radio. So now that we do have those loose, now you can pull the radio out on both sides. And the plugs can be a little tight back here, so you kind of need to put it askew and reach back here. And I've undone one of them. After you undo a few of them, it'll come a lot looser. There we go. Now that we have the radio out, we can actually pull out the screen as well. And you're going to need to undo this right here. There we go. Just set that to the side. And we'll start unplugging these connectors back here. There we go. Until you get the radio and display out. So the way that we're going to be installing the GPS antenna, we're going to be running all of our cables through the side hole here. There's just a piece of trim here. You can just pry it off with your pry tool. It'll come right off. We're going to go ahead and put the GPS antenna up here on top of the vents themselves. And once you get it in place, just firmly press it down. You want to make sure there's no metal between the actual GPS antenna and the sky, which in this case it's only this top of the plastic trim here. So we're good there. And we're just going to run our wire down to that hole. Thankfully there's plenty of room in this vehicle to do so. Go. The next thing we're going to hook up is going to be our main power harness here. This is just going to plug directly into the back of the stereo, so for now we're just going to go ahead and run it back here. Now that we have that ran, the last thing is going to be our display harness here. In our case, on our plugs, we do have the male and the female here. In this vehicle, there isn't a male that goes into the actual display itself, so we're not going to be hooking this up. We're only going to be plugging this in. If you do have a plug like this, that's a factory one behind the display, you need to plug it into this. Alright, and now that we have all of our wires ran, we can go ahead and start reassembling everything. So we're going to go ahead and plug in our connectors first. That's our 3 connectors there. These plugs are not going to be used anymore. The factory ones that went in here, you can leave those disconnected. And like I said earlier, the male plug that looks like this from the factory does get plugged into the female side, if you do have it. And then we're going to go ahead and pry this trim out here. There we go. Put that back on there. And now we've got all that done. Last thing left is just going to be putting in the radio. Alright, so the next thing we're going to go over real quick, before you put back in the radio, the best thing to do is just go ahead and connect all of these here. I'm going to do that real quick. And that way, you can figure out how much slack you actually need. So we're gonna put it up here on the roof like this. So we can figure out how much we need and pull our cables through here. In this case, we would also want to grab the actual trim that'll hold this in place, and you can check that out at that time. But this is the best way to get your cable managing done correctly beforehand. And the next thing we're going to want to do real quick as well is go ahead and run the USB. So I'll fish that through here. Like I said earlier, plug it in to USB 1. And that way we can figure out our cable management. So that link should be good there. And in this particular install, we're just going to run it down here close to the floorboard. We're going to run it around all of this. And then we just stick it out right below that trim down there. And the last thing that we need to hook up is going to be our microphone here. And what we're going to be doing in this install is we're going to be putting it up here next to the actual rear view mirror. That way it's not seen too well, but it's in a great spot. Alright, so now that we have the stand on here, we've gone ahead and pulled off the strip on here to show the adhesive. And we're just going to stick it right up here. And then we'll turn it this way. And now you can run your wires up here to the headliner. You can actually fold the headliner down a little bit as well. Tuck your wire along here. There we go. And then you will have to pull off these A-pillars here to get it ran down. We're not going to show the full run for the microphone, but this is the best spot for you to actually put it in, where it's somewhat hidden. And it looks pretty clean. And then we'll cut back to after we've ran it.